Quick note, this video was inspired by Ruben at To Readers It May Concern, an awesome booktube channel who has been dormant recently, so where are you, Ruben? I know I've seen you commenting on videos, and you should check out Ruben's channel because he is a great reader. I think so, and he's very articulate and thoughtful, and he has a ton of great videos that are better than what you see here. So check out his channel before you check out mine. Hello, welcome back to the channel. So today's video is going to be a tour of my reference bookshelf, all of my reference books. And I keep a shelf of reference books because I do not like to check my phone or my laptop or any internet connection while I'm reading, because it is a huge distraction and it diverts the mind away from, one, the book that you're reading, and two, the headspace that you need to be in to one, to take in what you're reading and to stay focused and have other connections when you're going through a book. I don't know if I explained that well, but having reference books keeps you on track more, I think. So without further ado, I'll just get right into it. First up, of course, we got the dictionary. This is the 5th edition of the American Heritage Dictionary, which I got this past year, or recently I got it. And this came out, the 5th edition came out recently. I like American Heritage. It has a ton of color images on every page. There's pretty good etymology too, and quotes. I know there's a lot of dictionary apps out there, but I do recommend having at least at home, a large dictionary that you can consult. And I use this all the time. Sometimes I'll note down words for later that I want to look up, and I do forget it. So I'm trying to be better about that. But it's really fun to have a big dictionary. And skipping ahead a little, the third book, we have a thesaurus, also made by the editors of the American Heritage Dictionaries. This is Roget's 2, the new thesaurus. I think this copy's from the 90s. I just thrifted it. But in addition to using reference books as a reader, I'm also an amateur writer, book reviewer. So some of these books are for writing as well as reading. But thesaurus, I find it helps me get out of stale ruts when I'm writing. I agree with the people who say, like, oh, you shouldn't use any thesaurus words that you wouldn't have used otherwise. Like a word you wouldn't have commonly used in your writing. But it's helpful to, like, sometimes I get mental blocks when I'm writing, and this is like, oh, like I should have used that turn of phrase or whatever. So thesaurus is great. It's not as helpful for reading as for writing, but a good resource nonetheless. Okay. Going back, we got Bartlett's Familiar Quotations, huge book of quotes. This is the 16th edition. I believe we're on edition 19 now, which might have come out in the early 2020s, and I'm not sure. And the way this book is organized, the history of the book is that John Bartlett, I think he was in the mid-1800s, I might be wrong, but he had a commonplace book of Shakespeare and Bible quotes, basically, and he made that into a book and published it, like all the big quotes, and kind of took off from there. I think it was Boston based, and he just kept going, and they started publishing more editions. So we still got Bartlett's in the 2020s. But this is organized by year of birth of the author, and then within that year of birth we go alphabetically. So I just tabbed a random page, but it's got like Nikolai Gogol, Oliver Wendell Holmes, and Abraham Lincoln, who all were born in 1809. And within each entry, it has, by publication date, all their famous quotes, or some of them, selected by the editors. Now, I haven't been doing much writing recently, so I haven't had much opportunity to use this quotation book at all. I'm not sure if I will until I get back into book reviewing or doing more book reviews. I'm kind of putting my head down and getting back into the classics to fill in some of my gaps. So I'm not writing so much now, but for a writer, it's good to have books of quotation, I think. I'm not sure if it's as useful as it used to be, because you could just look up on the internet some keyword with quote at the end, and you'll find a lot of tailored quotes. But I prefer analog, physical books, like Bartlett's Quotations. Okay, this next one is a really fun book, which I had to order from Thrift Books because it's quite rare. And this is a reference book by Isaac Asimov. Or maybe he wouldn't think of it as a reference book, but for me it's reference. And that's Asimov's Chronology of the World, the history of the world from the Big Bang to modern times. So, as said in the title, it is a chronology. It goes date by date, or not, chunks of dates by chunks of dates from the Big Bang to World War II. So, to give an example, I tabbed a page here. Yes, we have, see at the bottom, 250 to 200 BC. Talks about Egypt, the peak and decline of Ptolemaic Egypt. Then talks about what the Seleucid Empire is doing in the aftermath of Alexander the Great in Macedonia. Talks about what Spartan Greece was doing, then Rome in the First and Second Punic Wars, what was happening in Syracuse as well, with Archimedes and some battles there, and then a couple entries on India and China. So that was just for the section 250 BC to 200 BC. And of course each chapter is like 200 to 150, or as we get closer to modern times, more things start happening, so the time gaps get a little shorter. But I love this book. I've read like half of it almost, just cover to half. Because one, Asimov is such a fun writer, and two, it's really engrossing history. And it's great to get a grip on what was going on in the world during a certain time. Like, let's say I was not so familiar with the Greco-Persian Wars, and I saw it mentioned somewhere. I'd be like, oh, that's like between 500 BC and 450, so I'll go to that little chapter and see what was going on in Greece, Persia, what was happening in Rome at the time. Were they doing anything, or what was going on, or Carthage? And Asimov does a decent job of telling us what happened during that chronological time period. So he does have his quirks, and he gets some history wrong, so that you shouldn't use this as like a history Bible or anything. But it's fun, and it's nice broad overview. And it's mostly Western topics. He talks about India and China a little bit, but his Eastern research is, I'll say it's pretty terrible. So don't look for Eastern history in here, unfortunately. But I still love this book. And I mostly read about Western history, so that's fine by me. Alright. Another fun book. I picked this up only a month or two ago, so I'm new to it. But I've been reading different entries in this, and it's really fun. This is Benet's Reader's Encyclopedia. Originally started by William Rose Benet, who was a poet and the brother of Stephen Vincent Benet, who was also a poet, who did John Brown's Body. He died, William Rose Benet died in 1950, but the editors have kept up his Classic Encyclopedia of World Literature. So this was the 4th edition, and it's now called Reader's Encyclopedia. But it's an A to Z encyclopedia of world literature, being titles of books, authors, historical time periods, different artistic and literary movements, and mythology, some other stuff. It's a huge book. Now I tabbed a section to look at. So this is what it looks like. There's the bolded parts are the starts of individual entries. We have Julian the Apostate, a Roman emperor. That's a historical one. Juliet, a character from Romeo and Juliet. And Julius Caesar, the play by Shakespeare. Carl Jung, famous psychologist. Ernst Junger, German novelist. The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. The Jungle Book. Junker, a member of the landed aristocracy of Germany. Juno, the Roman name for Hera. Juno and the Paycock, a tragedy by Sean O'Casey. Jupiter, the Roman name for Zeus. Justine, part of the Alexandria Quartet by Lawrence Durrell. So that was just an example of most of the entries on one page, but it's you read one entry and then like 3 words are highlighted to send you to different entries in the book, and you start going there, and it's so addicting to just these are well written entries. You just pop back and forth, or even just reading straight pages. It's so fun. And I promise, if you're a fan of literature, you will also become addicted to this, I think. So if you ever find one of these, it's awesome. I haven't really used it. Actually, no, I have used this. I've looked up different classic titles that I'm interested in to see kind of what they're about, just in a little paragraph summary. And then that leads me to the author and then their time period, and it's really good. I love this. I love this. So, Benet's Reader's Encyclopedia. Next up, we have a specific time period book. This is A Guide to the Ancient World by Michael Grant. A dictionary of classical place names. Large, floppy trade paperback from Barnes & Noble. And Michael Grant's a prolific classicist. He's written so much. I think he was also a numismatist. He wrote some books about coins. But as the subtitle says, it's just a dictionary of classical place names. First, in the beginning, you got a bunch of maps of the classical world. Mainly this covers Greece and Rome and any territory that they held during their, or even Macedonia. Any territory that was held under Greek or Roman rule, pretty much. But, yeah. Place names, it will cover city or city-state or territory or town, or even physical landmarks like bodies of water, rivers, seas, lakes, mountains. And each entry will get a little geographical, it'll situate the geography, and then it'll give a history of the place, like, oh, the Romans took this in 400, and then it rebelled against Rome in 350, and it was razed by Alexander the Great in 324, stuff like that. I'm not sure exactly when the entries end. like the time period, but it's sometime in the Roman Empire. I think the entries peter off. So I occasionally consult this when I'm reading ancient Greek history books, but I haven't really poked through this. It's not been of huge interest otherwise. Yeah, I still like having this on the shelf when I'm in a pinch. Okay, 2 books on allusions. We have the Dictionary of Classical, Biblical, and Literary Allusions, and the Oxford Dictionary of Allusions. This is just an alphabetical treatment of famous allusions, categorized by the classics like Greece and Rome, the Bible, and random literary stuff. So I read this a few years ago. For some reason, cover to cover, it's fine. It has most of the major allusions, but I probably should get rid of it because I never consult it. This book, Oxford's book, I think it's better. It's organized thematically. So we got, let's find a good one. Here's a good one. Allusions to noses. Who do we got? Bardolph from Shakespeare's Henry IV. Cyrano de Bergerac and his honker. That's a good one. Jimmy Durante. He called his splendid nose a schnozzola. Pinocchio and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So it's a nice thematic organization of allusions. This is mainly for when I'm writing, if there's some allusion I want to refer to. I haven't done it too much yet, but I'm hoping to integrate it into my workflow if I ever want to be elusive. But yeah, I am going to keep this one. I don't know about the other one. I probably should get rid of that. Okay, these 2 books are placeholders until I can find a big fat version. We have the Oxford Concise Dictionary of Literary Terms and the Essential Poets Glossary. This is by Mariner Publisher, and this is Oxford, of course. But these are both alphabetical lists of literary and poetic terms. Style, form, usage, whatever. I haven't really consulted these, so I can't speak much on them. I'm hoping to thrift or find online for cheap a large dictionary of literary or poetic terms. But I have these for now. I should get rid of them since I don't look at them. But I think they're nice to have. So, yeah. Next up, a little mass market paperback, another dictionary of quotations. This is the New International Dictionary of Quotations. And I was thinking about getting rid of this, but I kind of like having a pocket-sized, this is mass market paperback, a pocket-sized quote book. And this is different from Bartlett because it's quotes organized by theme in an alphabetical list of theme. So, you have liberty, lies, life, luxury, whatever. I don't really check this. That's why I was contemplating dumping it. But it's here for now. The shelf is full and I don't have any more books, so what's here will stay for now, but if I ever get more reference books, this is on the chopping block. Another book on the chopping block, Rand McNally International Geographic Atlas. I think it's important to have an atlas so you're not just getting distracted by Google Maps. But this is a really old edition. Like it has like Zaire and Siam and the Soviet Union. So I just want a better atlas. But I mostly thrift, so it's sometimes hard to find oversized books. Get yourself an atlas if you want to learn geography. And the last reference book on my shelf is one of the most fun. It's the Penguin Classics book, edited by Henry Elliott. This is a cloth-bound, oversized book from Penguin Classics. And it was published in like 2019 or so, but it contains, up to 2019, every single Penguin Classic book that's in print. And this book organizes the titles by time period and location, pretty much. Here we have Archaic Greece, and you get into Homer. It has entries on the author, then entries on each book they have in Penguin Classics. It'll have pictures of all or some of the cover editions. Like these are the editions of the Iliad, and there's the Odyssey there. There's sometimes special dedications to translators. Here's an example of another page. This is Irish fiction, early poems. There's Beowulf right there. Yeah, so full color. In the beginning, it talks about the history of Penguin Classics and their different runs of cover design as well. And yeah, it's so fun. In 2023, I read a good chunk of this book, just going through it. I learned a lot. There's so many Penguin Classics out there. And even in the end of the book, it basically has a graveyard. They call it the vaults. But these are the Penguin Classics that are no longer in print. And it has fun covers from all of these. But these aren't in print, so you'll have to thrift them or go on eBay. Penguin Classics book. I found out about this because of the YouTuber Drunzo, Mark from Drunzo. In his famous classic literature bookshelf tour, he talks about this book. So I went out and bought it immediately because that was, it looks so cool, and it is. You should, I'm not going to be a shill and say you should buy new books. Well, you should, to keep the publishing industry afloat. But the Penguin Classics book is awesome, and I recommend it wholeheartedly. So, yeah. Anyways, that is my entire reference shelf that I use for my reading and my writing and my booktubing. So, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.